Hello, I'm Coach Natalie, and welcome to another episode of Jiu Jitsu for Dummies. Well, today is a special episode. We in the past have talked about the baseball choke, the cross-collar choke, the Bravo choke. These are what we call strangles in Jiu Jitsu. Choking in other uses of the word might mean that you're putting your wrist in front of your opponent's neck, kind of like a guillotine, that kind of thing. Well, today we're going to be focusing on using the gi. It kind of is really as a hinge. We're going to be attaching our hands, grabbing onto the gi, and really pressing on the side of the neck. And so in that case, you're actually just stopping the oxygenated blood from getting to your partner's brain, and after 5 or 7 seconds they'll fall asleep. So in any case, this is what we would call strangles, collar strangles. So a lot of this we will have covered in other episodes. I'll talk a little bit about that later, but I want to talk a little bit more about the underlying concepts of what makes these positions successful. So let's talk a little bit about the what are we trying to do? First, as I've mentioned, we have our partner here. We're gonna deal with our partner from a variety of angles today. But what I'm going to be doing is I want to put my hands as far on either side of my opponent as possible. Ideally, my fingers would be, touching on the other side. So that's one concept, inserting the hands as far as possible. Another idea is that the hands are going to be kind of mismatched. One hand's going to be pointing down and one hand's always going to be pointed up. Now, the hand that's pointed up, we call that supinated. The hand that's pointing down, we call that pronated. And so this is important because however the hands are, grabbing onto the gi, we always will want to move away from the hand that's pointing up, the supinated hand. So hands far as, deep as possible, always moving away from the supinated hand. And the final thing would be, once we have, the supinated grip, we're going to pull the supinated grip towards us. At the same time, this pronated grip is going to be, kind of pulling towards our stomach. So let's learn a couple of different strangles and just use the same concepts over and over. And so, you can kind of see how we're going to apply those. So first thing I might do is what we call the cross-collar choke, or in this case, strangle, from the guard. So Sally here, my dummy, she is going to be in my guard. Now, the 3 things I mentioned, we want to get our hands in as deep as possible. We want to rotate away from the hand that's pointing up. And in the end, we want to pull with this hand and pull down with this hand. So what would that look like? Well, to get as deep as possible, I need to break my dummy's posture. So I'm going to use my knees to do this. If this is a real person, she even had more resistance. I might be, grabbing this gi, and pulling her towards me. So first thing I want to do is I want to feed this hand as deep as possible. I'm going to use this hand to grab the gi collar and insert the hand palm up as far as I can. Now, it's kind of hard to get this other hand in, so I'm going to actually put my foot on the ground and cut the corner. Now, you can see I'm rotating away from the supinated hand, palm up. So now, the palm down, I'm going to reach in, again, as far as possible. And now I'm going to do this. I'm going to pull the supinated hand towards me. And this hand, I'm going to pull my elbow kind of towards my stomach. So again, supinated hand, pronated hand. I'm pulling down with the pronated hand, and I'm pulling the supinated hand towards me. Again, Sally's in my guard. first thing I'm going to be doing is I need to loosen this gi to get the hand in as far as possible. Next, I'm going to cut the corner. I'm going to put my foot on the floor, get my leg holding her down. This allows me to see this angle a little bit better. Hand down, reach in. Now, supinated hand pulls towards me, pronated hand pulls. Now, we can also do the cross collar choke up from the mount. We have to make a few adjustments though. So let's just say we're on the mount. Again, we're going to use this hand to kind of open up the gi. We're going to put this hand in as far as we can. We really want our knuckles to be, resting on the floor. So far so good. Reach in as far as you can. Now, remember how I said we want to always be moving away from this hand. So how we're going to do that is I'm going to walk my fingers over here and I'm going to put my head on the floor. Now, it'll be hard for me to show you what I'm doing, with my head down. So I'm going to first show you without my head down. So reaching in, run my fingers to the opposite side, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So my hand pointing down is now, pronated down. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull this towards me. This is going to go down like this. Now, I had mentioned that I was going to walk my hands around. I actually also want to keep my head down towards the ground too. Now the thing is, when I'm on the mount and both my hands are occupied, this might be a good time for my partner to try to buck me off. So if I tripod my head, my head's already resting on the floor, it's very hard to be bucked further onto the floor when, let's face it, your head's already on the floor. So let's do that. We're going to be, excuse me here. So, create some space, reach in, far as you can, knuckle on the floor. This hand starts to go around, and what I want to do, by the time I get here, my head needs to be on the floor. That way, I can't get bucked off further. But my hand is here, fingers down, pronated. I'm on this side. Again, I'm pulling with my hands, pronated hand toward me, and the supinated hand towards me, and the pronated hand is kind of pulling towards my stomach. So again, I'm on the mount. Maybe I'm grapevine my legs to, keep further secure. Loosening, hand in, deep as you can. Reach over. And the cross collar choke. Now, there are some mistakes that people can make. First of all, not getting their hands in as far as possible. Remember, there's what we call chokes, where you're actually pressing on the throat of your dummy or your partner. The Ezekiel's one of those. Guillotine is one of those. Those are uncomfortable. They're not putting you to sleep. I mean, people may tap just because they're so darn uncomfortable. What we're doing is we are putting this side of the wrist right on kind of the side of the neck where you would feel a pulse. So if you have a little bone here or a little bone here, and that is, as far back on the neck as possible, that's what you're really aiming for. So failure to get as deep of as a grip as you can. The second would be, rotating your hands, rotating your body towards the supinated hand. Now, all of the moves that we're going to be teaching, however we put our hands in, we're going to always be going away from the supinated hand. It's just the mechanics of it just work best. So failure to press deep enough on the neck, and you know, rolling the wrong direction. Those might be the two biggest mistakes you might make. So we have a couple of more moves. Now, related to the cross collar choke is what we call the Bravo choke. Now, we cover the Bravo choke in another episode, but it's a gi choke. I love it because once you set up the basic, you know, first move, then it becomes just like a cross collar choke. So let's just say you've been rolling with your dummy or your partner, whatever, and their gi has gotten kind of a little bit on the loose side. You could do this from the mount. You could do this from, you know, half mount or half guard. Let's do it from the mount. So you've been rolling, you know, belts get loosened, your gi gets loosened. You want to take this corner and you want to put it underneath your opponent's arm. With your hand pronated, fingers down, you're feeding it through behind their neck. Again, pronated down. Now what you're going to be doing is using this little edge of the gi corner kind of as a tail. Again, you're reaching in. Now with the supinated hand, reaching in as far as you can. Again, offside, you want to go away from the supinated hand as much as possible, rolling to the side. Now, you can put your hands in here. Sometimes I just see people are holding onto the top of the shoulder of the gi fabric. Yeah, and that's fine. Really, what we're using the fabric is kind of a handle. The most important thing again is put your hands as far as you can. Go away from the supinated hand. Grab the top of the gi. Now remember, you're still pulling the supinated hand towards you, and the pronated hand, you know, elbow is going to go towards your stomach. So it's going to look like this. Supinated, pronated, head on this side. Even if you can get it to the floor, that'd be great. I'm going to be, again, pull the supinated hand towards me, pull the pronated hand towards my stomach. So, one of our earliest episodes, I think it was like episode 5 or something, we did what was called the baseball choke. So, baseball choke actually from this angle. So we talked a little bit about the knee on belly. Knee on belly, of course, you've got a knee right on the solar plexus. You've got a leg far enough away that the, you know, dummy or your partner can't grab your leg. And in this case, you would be grabbing both sides of the gis. Now, for the cross collar choke and the Bravo choke, we've been, you know, crossing our wrists, our arms. In the baseball choke, we're going to actually grab the gi that's right in front of us, and then we're going to move ourselves around. And in the process of moving ourselves around to the other side, our forearms will then get crossed, just like the cross collar choke. So, in this case, the baseball choke gets its name because of how our hands are oriented. Kind of like you're, you know, using a baseball bat. One hand's going down, one hand's going up. Again, we're going to be going away from the supinated hand. So, knee on belly. Not surprisingly, they're going to say, oh boy, that's really heavy. They're not going to be surprised that you're going to be now trying to choke them. In this case, one hand goes down, the pronated hand goes down right in front of us. The supinated hand goes on this side. Again, be as deep as you can. I'm now going to be knee cutting. Now, you can see what we would be called a north-south position. I'm again going to be pulling one hand towards my stomach, The other hand is going to be pulled, you know, towards me. So I'm going to be actually even putting my head on my person here, and getting my butt up in the air, and that will give me even a little bit more dynamic tension. Again, with your dummy here, or your partner, put your knee on your stomach, knee on belly, really pressing down on the solar plexus. Again, putting my hands as far as I can into the neck. This hand pronated down, this hand pronated up, or supinated up. At a certain point, I'm going away from the supinated hand. And now look, my hands are crossed, my forearms are crossed, just like the cross collar choke. So, again, that is the baseball choke. Now, something that I've heard be called a kind of a Hail Mary move is actually the baseball choke from the bottom. I just very recently learned this, and I think it's a very good move because most people would agree that when you are on the bottom, that's usually not you don't usually have a lot of good options, especially if you're in bottom side control. But we're going to use the very same setup that we learned, you know, one hand this way, one hand this way. And so I'm going to be on bottom side control. This hand's getting the pronated grip. This hand's getting the supinated grip. And then I'm just going to start hitchhiking my legs out. How this would normally work is that the person on top would say, great, I'm on side control. I'm going to get to the mount. And as they start moving, they're actually tightening, you know, the choke. Even if they don't move, I can move myself. And again, they'll never see it coming because they'll assume, you know, you're on the bottom and, you know, that they have the dominant position. But in case, with Sally here, she's, you know, on top side control. I'm in a bad position. I'm putting in my pronated hand just as far as I can. Again, my supinated hand is going to be coming in like this. Now, the last thing I'm going to be doing is starting to roll outwards. As you can see, my hands are not crossed right now, but as I roll outwards, they now become crossed. Worse yet, well, better for me, worse for them, if they decide they're going to get onto the mount, they tighten up the choke. But even if, you know, I can't count on Sally to get the mount, I can certainly hand down, hand up, again, cutting the corner, rolling away from this inside supinated hand, and there you go. Baseball choke from the bottom. So we've covered, as I mentioned, some of these strangles in episode 5. As I said, I think we did the baseball choke. In episode 9, it was cross collar choke. In episode 17, we've covered I think the Bravo choke. So look at those episodes, get more details. Again, the biggest things to remember is you want to get your hands in as far as possible. And that's why we're trying to loosen the collar. That's why we're trying to cut an angle as much as possible, moving away from the supinated hand. And then in the end, you're pulling towards you. This is going to your stomach. This is going towards, higher towards you. And your hands are like, making this martial arts movement. Then, of course, that's why you know it's martial arts. I was just joking there. But in any case, what I'm not joking about is we have a new trailer out. We're actively getting more subscribers. It's free, as you know. Hopefully you find a lot of value in these movements. I was just at my gym for the first time in 15 months, and I had the august pleasure of rolling with my professor. And I was on the mount, and I said, you know what, Natalie? You know how to do the Bravo choke, because you know what? You've created a lesson on the Bravo choke. And, you know, I was feeding that gi underneath his shoulder, and then, you know, grabbing him. In the end, I wasn't able to get the Bravo choke, but I think I was pretty successful in just holding him down. That was, you know, success isn't always guaranteed by learning these positions, but in general, they're always really good for at least holding the person down. You know, it gives you more options. So hopefully you find these episodes of value and you share them with others. So, you know, like I said, you know, check out some of the old episodes and share the love. Press subscribe and, you know, share it with your friends. And thank you again for joining me for this episode of Jiu Jitsu for Dummies.